Hello, gathered friends. This is Spider, and welcome back to another review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Lego Bionicle Tahu, set number 8534. And oh boy, have I been looking forward to this one. So here we have the classic set released back in 2001. And to start things off, we'll take a look at the packaging. Alrighty, so most Lego sets, as you would expect, come in a, your standard cardboard box. However, Bionicle decided to be a little bit different, and they came in canisters. Yeah. So we'll take a quick look at the canister here. Or as quick as I go, anyways. So we got a nice picture of Tahu here, surfing on lava, as one does. You got Lego Technic. Yeah, Bionicle used to be part of the Lego Technic line. Then it kind of became its own entity. You get Bionicle there. You get some stuff telling you things about the set. You get the set number. You got Tahu over there. You got some things there. You got some words. And you got a little image of Tahu in his mask. And what's kind of cool about this is that this outer bit here is actually a sleeve which can move around. And underneath, it shows you all the other Toa that you can get. Yeah, it's not quite focused. There we go. That's a bit better. So yeah, got all the other Toa that you can get. So that's pretty cool. And not only that, but it also shows off something else at the bottom here. So yeah, it shows off where the Toa come from, because these canisters are not just a neat packaging idea. They're actually tied to the origins of the Toa, because that is where they come from in the story. They fall from the sky and arrive on the shore of the island in these canisters, and then they pop out and they assemble themselves and they go off and fight evil. So that's really cool that they kind of, give you a little catch up here of the Toa's backstory. Not through a bio, but just like through little visuals on the side of the canister. That's really cool. I really like that. And you got the top of the canister with the face of the Bionicle. And you got 6 pegs here where you can put the 6 heads of the Toa, if you so chose. Don't know really why you would do that. It's kind of brutal if you think about it, but you can do it. So we'll set that aside and move on to the instructions. Here we have instructions. We'll get a better look at that. So here we have a nice look at the picture on the front of the canister of Tahu surfing on lava, which looks really, really cool. And once again, you got the canisters washing up on the beach. And then something that was cool about the Bionicle instructions is that the pieces in the instructions are actually 3D images. So it can kind of helps you understand how to build the figures a bit better. And then towards the back of the instructions, it starts telling you how to build something we'll talk more about at a later date. And then at the back, yeah, that thing I was talking about where you can put all the Toa heads on the top of the canister. So yeah, I wasn't making it up. It actually is a thing you can do. Anyways, we'll just gently set those aside because they're kind of old and I don't want to ruin them. And then we'll move on to the Toa. Alrighty, and here we have Toa Tahu. And first things first, we'll take a look at the articulation of the figure. Now, there's nothing at the head, but the arm is on a ball joint towards the shoulder. I guess, yeah, that's the shoulder. The arm can move that far forward and that far back. Can move in and out a bit, and obviously can rotate because it's a ball joint. The hand can also move all the way around in whatever direction you would want it to move. However, it's kind of loose for my taste, so I kind of just leave it in the locked in position so it doesn't move around. And you have the other arm, which is pretty much the same as the other arm. Then you have the legs, which are also on ball joints, because that was Bionicle's favorite joint to use, which they don't really kick that far forward or that far back, but they do go all the way out. You have the foot here, which can go up and all the way back or down, whatever that would be. Can go side to side, and you get some nice ankle tilt. So yeah, the articulation on the classic Toas were kind of pretty limited, but you can still get some pretty cool poses out of them. Now, onto the details. So we'll focus up here on the mask of Tahu, which wasn't only just his face, but also kind of the face of the franchise. They use this mask a lot, which is understandable because it looks very, very nice. And then you got Tahu's face underneath his face, which is this thing, which looks interesting. We're just going to put that mask back on. He also has got some light piping going on, which means that if you take a flashlight and shine it in the back of his head, it makes it look like his eyes are glowing, which is quite nice. I always appreciate a nice light piping effect. Anyways, we'll get back to the details here. We have the body. We have these nice little pistons on the side, and I guess the exposed spinal column, maybe? I don't know. He also got this little ball in the front of him, which I don't really know what that's for, and doesn't really seem like anybody else does either, because anybody I see talk about Tahu, they're just like, oh yeah, there's this ball in the front, don't know what that is. Some, I don't know, maybe it's an armor piece, his heart, I have no idea. Anyways, he had his shoulders and his arm here with some nice little pistons on here. Then he got his hand with his fingers, and yes, these two axle bits are supposed to be his fingers. Then you got his other arm, which is a completely different piece than the first arm. Looks pretty cool. It's in a nice position to hold the sword, and the sword itself is also quite nice looking. Nice and simple, but don't really need much for a cool looking fire sword. You got his legs, which, if you notice, are the exact same piece as his arm, just flipped upside down. And then you have the classic Toa foot, another piston there. Looks nice and sturdy. And then you have the back of the figure. So yeah, overall, it's quite a nice design. You know, it's a little simple, but it's also cool looking. You know, I really feel like the original classic Toa did an excellent job of balancing the line between interesting and simple. You know, because you don't want to be too intricate that you don't know what you're looking at, but you also want to be able to still have it look cool. And I feel like the classic Toa Mata team were very, very good at that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the details. Now the figure does have a few gimmicks. One you've probably noticed all throughout this review, as you've probably seen that this arm is a little bit, actually a lot bit loose. And the reason for that is because you have this gearbox back here. And when you move said gearbox, it moves his arm. And you can move that as fast as you want. It can swing all over the place. It's funny, I actually saw a video of someone who hooked up Tahu to an electric drill and just had his arms spinning like crazy. That was funny. So there really is no limit to how much wiggling around you can do with the arm, which is nice. The only downside is that it's super limp otherwise, so yeah, that is a bit of a drawback, but the gimmick is still fun. The other gimmick of Tahu and a lot of other of the earlier Bionicle figures is that the mask can kind of come off rather easily, and this is intentional because the early years of Bionicle was really focused on knocking masks off. Like the main villain of the series, Makuta, had infected masks that when he knocked your regular one off, he replaces it with an infected one and made you evil and he can control you. So the heroes had to knock the infected mask off and put the regular back on. So there was just lots of knocking masks off in the series, which was kind of dropped later on, but in these earlier ones, that was certainly something I focused on a lot. But thankfully, the mask isn't too loose to where it'll fall off just by poking it. So that's nice. And that is pretty much it for Tahu. Over the Toa here, one of their quests was to find the 6 Kanohi masks. And when they found their 6 masks, they would unlock the golden mask, which I have right here. Ooh, look at that. So here we have the golden How mask, which, yeah, that mask actually has a name. In fact, pretty much all the masks had names in Bionicle. Lego really went all out when it came to Bionicle. Yeah, so we have the cool golden mask. And this was not something you could find easily. It did not come with this set. You actually had to get it through blind bags, I believe. So you basically had to buy a bunch of blind bags, open them up, and hope you got the right mask. Which was kind of cool because, in the story, the heroes are on a journey to find their golden mask, and in real life, you are also trying to find the golden mask. So it was a cool little parallel you could do. I'm sure that was pretty fun at the time because I wasn't really alive then. Well, I was alive, but I wasn't really, conscious or self-aware yet, so I didn't know. Unfortunately, I missed out on that, but I'm sure it was fun. Anyways, enough jibber-jabbering out. Let's put the mask on and... Oh yeah, look at that. Now he looks ready to battle evil. And he can actually hold his old mask and just plug it in to his hand like that. Yeah, but he looks better holding his sword, so I'll just give him his sword. So, yeah. But if you're worried about losing the mask, you can just store it on the top of the canister. If I can find the port, there it is. So you can just plug it in right there, and there you don't have to worry about losing it. Goodness, I can't speak today. So that's pretty much it for Tahu. Now on to the size comparisons. Okay, so to start off the size comparison, as always, here it is with a Lego minifigure. With the Packet Destruction minifigure Mothra. The Packet Destruction minifigure Godzilla. And here it is with the McDonald's Bionicle Inika Jala. If I can get him to stand up. Hey, he's standing. And finally, here he is with the previous review, the Bandai Creations 2001 King Ghidorah. Now that we're done with all that, it's measuring time. Let's get this bad boy measured up. So you can see he is almost about 7 inches tall. So, pretty decent size, especially for a Lego figure. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this review. Hang on, let me see if I can get him in this pose. Right here, if I can balance it out. Hey, I kind of got it to balance out. Sort of. But it doesn't look that great on camera, so we're just not going to do it. Okay, whatever. We'll just sit him here. So that is pretty much it for a review. And overall, he's pretty neat. I do like him. The only real downside is the lack of articulation, but it was the case with the older figures. As Bionicle went on, they improved that a lot. Now, if you wanted one for yourself, on eBay they're going for around $30 at the cheapest, which, yeah, kind of steep for this figure. I mean, I like this guy, but I don't know if I like him that much. Yeah, but it's an unfortunate thing with collecting Bionicle. As the years go by, the figures just get more and more rare, and so the prices go up. But I do think there are other places you can get them cheaper. I just don't know what they are. I usually just stick to eBay. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. However, that is not it for this month, because August 10th for those of you who don't know, is Bionicle Day. And so, for the whole rest of August, I'm going to be doing nothing but Bionicle reviews. Why? Because I want to, and I like doing these month-themed review things every so often. They're fun. Anywho, that's pretty much it for this review, so hope you enjoyed. See you later. Sayonara. Bye.